Ready? 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Muay Thai Bones Library Coffee Edition. Name pending.
We have coffee.
Okay, so if you're joining us for the first time, we get coffee and talk about a Muay Thai Library session that we just filmed. We're just at Tak's about 40 minutes ago, an hour ago. And if you're new to the Library Coffee, this is part of a podcast that you can get as a patron that will include the whole audio of the actual session. You can use your mind's eye to take a session in Thailand with Sylvie's commentary while you ride on the subway in New York.
I do my commentary like a podcast, basically, so describing what's going on, what's being taught, and trying to explain what's being said and things like that. So it functions as just an audio version as well.
It's really cool. Like, who would have thought you could like put your earphones in on the subway and be in Thailand? In this session, the rain is raining really loud.
It's crazy.
On the tin
like
roofs,
a tin roof, yeah.
which is a total Thai experience,
totally.
right? All right. So what we do is we try to talk about the bigger ideas that were contained in the session. The session will be up on Patreon in a little while. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'll put a link where you can become a patron and watch it. Well, I lost my train of thought.
We trained with Tak today.
Okay, so Tak is I guess we don't have to go a whole bio of him. He's a very super technical femur, talented, I don't know. I feel like I've got you got unplugged.
He's local to Pattaya, and he's of a generation of original Pattaya fighters. So Ramba, my trainer Krunu, Sit-Or, Tapaya, and Tak. You guys don't know these names. Maybe you know Ramba because he's in the Muay Thai Library.
And he's world famous.
But they're all in the same age. They're all 45 to 48 years old, and they grew up together in Pattaya, and now they all own gyms in different areas, but they used to train together. And Tak is just this amazingly femur, tricky, super cocky and confident, but in a beautiful way.
At some point?
I'm not sure. His gym is Cho Nateentong, so he has his own gym. He may have been Fairtex.
I think he was a Fairtex fighter for a time. I remember when Natalie Foos would come and train with him, and I remember there was a Fairtex connection, maybe. Maybe I'm imagining that.
Chem Fairtex or Gal Fairtex, I'm not sure which one, came and trained with him years ago when we were first there. So yeah, there is some kind of Fairtex connection, but Fairtex is in Pattaya, so it makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. So I guess, cut to the chase. What are some of the bigger ideas? We're not going to break down the session. We're more like, having had this experience, this makes us think these things about Muay Thai.
He reminds me of something that was revolutionary, and revelatory.
Both? Three?
All of those things with Karahat, which was understanding that your relaxation against your opponent's tension is like you wearing an invisibility cloak and making them more and more visible and predictable. Because of the way he moves, he makes you very tense because you're like, what are you going to do to me? But his relaxation hides everything. He's not a super dancing around type of femur. He's actually just a kind of loose, you don't know when the strike is going to come.
Karahat has that too a little bit. He's very femur, but he's not jumping around.
He does not take a lot of space. He's not femur in the I'm going to be way far away from you all the time. But he delivers nice power in the accuracy of what he's throwing.
You use this term accuracy all the time to me in a really weird way, because accuracy means hitting the right spot.
That's what it feels like.
But it's an accuracy of also throwing it at the right time. It's an accuracy of timing. The right shot moment comes right in the rhythm and then the arrow doesn't just find its home, it finds its home as part of a continuous rhythmic attack in a weird way. And he was explaining this a little bit later in the session about how, like, if you're on balance, you get power.
Well, that's what I could feel in trying to do the things that he was showing me, is that I'm not on balance. On a scale of balance to not off balance, I'm still pretty close to balance. But compared to him and being able to feel how I was just off, so I have to make a correction coming off of it rather than being able to strike off of it. Like, the way that he can just chain everything together and like trip you off of your move because you have this moment of off balance.
Well, let me unpack that a little bit, because that's a really interesting concept. It's like, after you throw something, then correcting yourself to center.
Yeah.
Whereas we've seen in the library, like Chai's washing machine, and a lot of the, when Muay Thai gets to the highest level, every strike, even every overstrike, leads to the next movement.
Yeah.
And is that because your feet are always under you? Because I feel like when your feet are not under you and your head comes off its base, that's when you have a potential problem of having to correct something.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. Like, there's a difference between if your car overturns in one direction and then you way overturn in the opposite direction versus like bending back to, because at super high speeds you can bend back to the correction. These high level guys are bending back to correction rather than the like, oh Jesus, and you're like fishtailing with your car. I fishtail. A lot of people fishtail, or like you miss and you're like way overturned, and so you literally have to like restart the engine to come back in the other direction rather than like the spring load.
Yeah, but the answer is not don't fishtail. It's
minor correction.
You tend to fishtail when these things happen.
Yeah. Like,
what are these things that are happening that are producing fishtails? It's like, I think it's head coming off off the base of the feet.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things in this session that were very interesting, and you actually discovered this yourself in training the last week. You had just like through improvisation was like, this feels good.
That
and you
was
started
crazy. That is exactly what he did with that stepping out.
Sylvie from Orthodox has been like stepping to the left with her lead foot on strikes.
On everything.
To create, which to me gives you like a tripod.
Yes.
Right? Because for a long time your feet were lined up a little like too much. Very bladed. For whatever reason, when you'd kick and you bring your foot back, your foot would come back too far behind your lead foot, and then you'd be bladed, and then you don't have stability this way. You've started stepping outside with your lead foot, even on jabs, to create a tripod effect, right?
Yep.
Which gives you a firm base.
Yep.
And a lot of what he was talking about here was this stepping outside, which is really coincidental and interesting.
He had, anytime I was throwing my left side, he had me taking a slight step with my left foot. It was totally what I've been working on. But then I know to step on knees or kicks or whatever, but it's totally also the realization I got from the Namsak Noi session, which is like, where are you stepping? Like, you always want to be outside of your opponent's feet, like all the time. Which is why he's just crazy on balance and never throwing things like with whirling power.
See, that is why I think he doesn't fishtail.
Yeah.
Is because he keeps his feet kind of outside the stance, or at least in relationship to his head, so that he's always tripoding.
Yeah.
At least that's my suspicion. We have to look at the tape, right?
It's like a tractor.
Yeah.
That's like able to.
Which is so interesting, because you don't look at him and think tractor at all. He's so fluid and I don't know,
changes
he's
direction very
hard.
quickly.
Yeah.
You'd think he's like a little motorbike. That
Yeah.
Go like this or whatever. Yeah.
But for him, everything is the basic balance.
Yeah.
I remember when you were with Chai, we filmed 30 hours with him. Chai Sasakun, WBC world champion and coach of the year in Thailand, and you were blowing out this line.
Yeah.
Like you were leaning over.
I dropped my shoulder.
Drop that shoulder. But that shoulder is dropping probably because this foot is too inside.
Yeah. And so it's like forcing the adjustment.
Yeah, it's making you kind of lean over the edge, right? But if you put this foot, your lead foot, tripoded out, then your shoulder can relax. You don't have to balance yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's an interesting idea that maybe that would be, I don't know.
It's
productive?
also one of these things where, like, if you look at his feet, he looks crazy on balance everywhere he is, but he doesn't have a really wide stance. It's totally, in Thai they call it Puddi. Puddi means like baby bear just enough, like just right. He's always Puddi, like his feet are always just right, but they are kind of doing this, like all the time.
There's a V to him.
Yeah, but there's like a compass legs, like to kind of move everything.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because the feet make the adjustment for everything else that's happening. So you don't see where the origin, like you don't see what feeds the river, you just see the river and then you're like, oh, it's coming from here, but the feet are the
Well, there was an interesting point in the session. It was actually at the very end where you switched stance on him when you were sparring, which is the sparring is usually the end, and he's like got excited. He goes, yes. He goes, yes, you need to be able to go left side, right side. And we've compared him with Karhat. Karhat's the one who moved you to southpaw, and really to make you ambidextrous. And you were southpaw for a year. We're weaving that back in a little bit, but it immediately made him put you through like a basics drill.
A balance drill.
A balance drill. Much like how Samart, who's another super femur, the most femur fighter, Samart put you through lots of ambidextrous, backwards, forwards attack. It's very interesting that Tak and Samart had the same feeling.
What was interesting too is that Samart is like 56. Tak is only like 48, but both of them were like, back in the day everyone did this, like this is how you learned.
Yeah.
He's like, back in the day this was not a thing. This is just like how you learned.
Samart also a Pattaya fighter.
Also a Pattaya fighter.
Right?
Yeah.
But so he put you through these step back, lead kick, step back, lead kick. That was hard because it was counter to your own rhythm. But he was like, this is like so basic, but everybody thinks past it.
Yes.
They don't learn this.
Yeah.
And so they don't have balance.
Yeah.
And so everything they do lacks power, timing. They have that problem that you're talking about. They have to correct over turns, over shots. And a lot of people, one of the problems with overshooting and off balance, some people will be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna be off balance and throw these huge shots. Other people are like, I don't wanna be off balance, so I'm not gonna throw anything. Like it makes you hesitant to do things. Because it's like somebody on a surfboard that doesn't want to fall off the surfboard, so they just stay in the center, right?
Or when you're trying to walk, you fall down a lot, you're not going to walk very much.
Yeah, you have to go through that. But it's kind of interesting that he's like, this balance is the root of all of his style.
Everything. And I was noting to him at the end of it how I can see the distinct difference between a fighter like him, especially a Thai fighter like him, who's femur, who like moves in all these different directions and has power but isn't like throwing with power all the time.
Is this rolling?
Yes, that's the time.
Oh, awesome, sorry.
Versus a Western fighter who's like, I'm just gonna throw with all my power, I don't really care that I'm off balance, but because you're off balance, you throw one shot. You have one and then you're done. And it's like, okay, reset kind of thing, which is why it looks like a femur fighter is just doing magic where they're like, whoop, 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 just kind of barely off all the time. Is the magic is balance.
And as Charchai told you, don't ever throw anything with full power. You're not going to hit anything. The other thing that happens when you throw with full power is you blow out your lines, which means not only are you telegraphing often, but like when you're on balance and you're throwing with 75% power, all the little like parts like click, 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 click together, which create this cattle prod effect where you get touched, but all the dominoes fell and it has like this shock of power. It's not like knockout power, it's like stunning power. right? When you can move fluidly and then have these like cattle prod fucking moments, you can start distorting your opponent, right? Yeah, I don't know. You seem to be like feeling what he was doing to you in a harsh way, like.
Well, I don't even know if you want to talk about this, but it's very interesting because I used to go to Tak's gym 4 years ago maybe to try to get, I think, more pad work or sparring or something.
Around when we first moved to Pate, maybe in the first year here.
And I just fucking got killed by him, like, because I was so tense, and the way he moves makes you more tense. And the more tense you get, the worse it is.
And he's a very mischievous fighter where when he can like just touch you and make you crumble, he will just keep doing it.
Yes.
Boom, 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 yeah.
But I don't even know where I was going with that. I've actually lost my train of thought on that. But the emphasis he put on you don't want tension ever. And he was actually talking about like your hands stay up, but your shoulders move behind it kind of thing. And I'm like, that's totally the opposite of people who do the like karate hands where like their hands move but their shoulders don't. It's like this stays here, but the like, that's also very Karahat, his like weird
Did that feel
slick shoulders.
Real to you? Like how did that affect you?
I could feel it. Like I could feel how the like delegating where the tension goes in order to keep the right parts loose and fast. But I don't know. Anytime I work with a fighter like him, the wow factor of how much power and intensity is in each of his strikes without any effort putting power in.
That's what I'm talking about.
Crazy.
It's that
like,
weird.
Why does that hurt
it's
so
that
much?
weird fucking chi kung fu thing where the like master just touches you and it's just like a bolt of lightning. But that's a fantasy, but it's based in real kinesthetic development of technique and relaxation.
Yeah, but it's like it's not magic. It's like a pool cue, right? You don't tense your fist to fucking hit a pool ball hard. The cue is stiff, so you don't have to be. You're loose. You're like, bop, it's like in the wrist, because the cue is stiff. If the cue wasn't stiff, you'd have to change what you're doing. But we don't understand that about our own bodies. We're like, you don't think, okay, which part needs to be hard to get the thing to go straight, but the rest of it has to be in the wrist or whatever the thing is. So with fighters like him, you can feel that like pull cue kind of like looseness in the wrist that makes the ball go like, bong, like just so straight. Whereas if you tensed up and tried to do it.
Well, this is one of the hardest things to learn because we learn often when we think mechanically and you try to like make the body do movements, the whole body learns tension. Yeah. Right?
And you brace for things.
And you brace, yeah. And so you're not learning right away. You need tension in the right spot. Yeah. Like you need, it's that yin yang thing. You need yang right here, but the rest is yin. Yeah. And it's like, this is something that is encountered a lot of times in clinch development, that when somebody grabs you who's fucking strong, your whole body goes rigid.
Yeah. And when you first start, you're just one giant like wrestle muscle.
One wrestle muscle. And then as you learn to relax, this is why Thais learn playing in clinch, not technical instruction, but play like sandboxing, is you want to start with the body loose and acquire tension in the right spots, right? And to me, that's just watching him today was lessons in that, is that his tension is in the right spots. Yeah. Everything else is loose. Yeah. But that's very hard to do, to get to that as a Westerner. Yes. Because we're very self-critical, very mechanistic. We learn Muay Thai later in life, so there's a much greater fear dimension. Like lots of self-judgment creates tension, but there's also like, I've not learned that hitting each other can be fun. It's only painful and shameful and embarrassing.
I have to check the battery on this. The thing about as a Westerner coming to it from wherever we come to it from, because we don't start early, we don't learn in a very natural learning capacity. Like we like to verbalize everything and explain everything, but it's really about feeling. Yeah. if you think about like learning to play baseball, you learn to bat, right?
Yeah.
The way we try to do it is explain to me exactly the distance the ball should be in measurements, when I should throw it, how I should hit it, blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
no.
Swing the bat a fucking lot of times and you'll start to feel the relationship to when it's close enough to crack it.
Yeah.
That's what Tak is doing. He feels when you are tight enough. He feels when you're close enough. He feels all of these things. That's when you hit the ball. It's not like when they do this, you do this, like verbal.
Yeah, but how do Westerners coming late and encountering the fluidity of Thai technique shed some of the roadblocks? I mean, there's a book, The Inner Game of Tennis. Everybody read it. It will give you the secrets, but the secrets are not easy to apply.
Yeah.
Right? But you also have a lot of experience of trying to shed your own tension, your own self-critical mindset. Like, you just had a session with him. At times you were struggling because you were like, and the elbow goes where, and the foot goes where, like you're puppeting yourself. And then other times you're just like giving into the feeling.
Yeah.
I'm talking bigger ideas, not like what did Sylvie do?
Well, you're asking how people do it coming from different places. Is you start where a kid would start, which is like, stop trying to verbalize it, stop trying to measure it, just do it over and over again. There are times that I was like, are you stepping out? And my question was, are you stepping out? And his actual correction was, you're stepping out too straight. Like, I was stepping towards him too much. And he's like, you are stepping out. You're just not stepping out the right way. And so he would do it, and then I would do what he did. And I'm like, that just solved 90 questions. Like, instead of it being a 20 questions game of like, well, where is your foot and blah, blah, blah. So you just feel
so
like,
interesting though, because there's not just one answer, which is, fuck technique, just relax, right? Like, you were stepping at an angle that you just changed the angle like 20 degrees, and suddenly, why isn't this working? Tension just vanished.
like, oh, I feel
like,
that.
yeah,
I kept saying to him in Thai,
yeah.
I'm like, I feel that.
Yeah. But I guess the answer is, as you're adjusting techniques, or an answer is, as you're adjusting techniques, trying to approximate somebody who's very good at something, whenever you make a correction, feel what that feels like.
Yeah.
Not like, don't just create a mimetic copy of something. You want to get in the ballpark of where the right foot is, where your head is, ballpark. But every time you make a correction, how does that feel? Because if you do not have the feeling, like we watch Master Chef, and we're like, why aren't you tasting the food as you're making it? You have to taste the food as you're making it to make corrections and balance as it's developing.
We were bartenders. You have to taste your drink.
You taste your drink as you're making it. Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you're like, have no idea that lemon you just put in is super acidic, like way more than a normal lemon.
Not every lemon is the same.
Yeah, and it's like, when you're adjusting techniques and you're learning a thing, you make one change and then you taste it.
Yeah.
Like you have to, and Vipassana is a little bit about this tasting, this knowledge of just direct experience.
And it's also, and maybe this is a little bit abstract, but it's like, think about what it is you're actually saying instead of what are the words that I have to say. So I can't even remember what movie it was. Kevin and I were watching some movie where they have this like superstar, like Kentucky country dude playing a role where it's cumbersome for him to say the line that he's trying to say, but because he's a heartthrob, they put him in this position. So they have Ralph Fiennes as the director.
Oh
and
my
he's
God,
like,
that was so funny.
The line is,
it was a funny
"If only
character.
it were so simple." So you've got this British dude being like, "If only it were so simple." Having a country dude say "twir" is like, "If only 'twere so simple." Like, it's never gonna sound right.
What was that movie? So
I don't
good.
know. It never sounds right. Stop trying to say what he's saying and think about, what are you saying? Like, a country dude can say something, sadly, "If only it were so simple." That's the line. The line is like, this is too complicated. If you look at what Tak's doing, and I'm not as loose as him at all, and instead of like, I gotta get my leg to the outside and get my head up for like, get that leg kick up, is instead of like, I have to do what he's doing like this, is like, what is he actually saying is, you don't know, I'm hiding what I'm doing, and then it just kind of fop.
Yeah,
like that.
that
And
element,
so
yeah.
whatever my version of the like fop comes out.
Yeah, and then this is part of that interesting thing about like finding techniques or styles that speak to you or that are your style. Like for a long time you had to be like, fuck you, femur, I'm Muay Khao, so I'm just gonna learn Muay Khao stuff. But you're actually encountering, because you've trained with so many people, that femur elements speak to you.
Which is weird.
Which is not weird, it's just you're allowing yourself to feel more. And when you're a fully feeling person, there's no accounting for the elements that would speak to you. There might be like the most fancy pants fighter in the world has one little thing that he does that speaks to you, but doesn't mean you want to fight like a fancy pants fighter.
That's true.
Right? Like Samart's turnover teep, his little side teep, that could be fucking part of a power attack by a marching fighter.
Totally.
You could just take that little element, but you can only take that element if you're like, how does that feel to me?
Totally.
And you start to like create an eclectic, it's like musicians who are influenced by not just one kind of music.
Yeah.
But like fucking get influences from all diverse kinds of music, right? And then because you're feeling the music, it just invades your expression.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a little bit what's happening now with the invasion of these firmer styles, starting with Karahat and then Namsak Noi, right? Little bit of talk speaking to you, right?
Totally.
It's really interesting.
Totally.
I don't know, what else? Anything? I was very struck, watching it, when I'm watching, he's in the pocket. He's not dancing outside of it, right? He likes to be close because then he can make you tense, right? I'm seeing something that, the word that kept coming to me was clockwork. There is a like, by clockwork I mean like, how, you know how all the gears all line up inside a watch? And it's like way more, you look at it, it's just so complicated but so beautiful and precise. His movements are all inside the pocket with knee blocks. His knee block like Krunu, lots of knee blocks, cross blocks, elbows, everything coming through angles of the fighting space. And it's, to me, it's like a clockwork of techniques that are all working together inside the pocket. So few people fight inside the pocket. In boxing, high level, the fighting is almost all inside the pocket.
Right.
In Muay Thai, not a lot of people know how to fight inside the pocket.
Yeah.
If you can fight inside the pocket, you have a huge advantage in Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Because a lot of Muay Thai, especially Western version of it, is outside the pocket, pad work distance, right? And when I was watching him, I'm just like, his balance, his relaxation, his set of techniques, like his cross blocks with his knees and his elbows and his lean outs, all created a kind of like matrix of, I don't know what, I can't even explain it. It's like those laser lines Catherine Zeta-Jones.
The entrapment ass scene. So Kevin's saying that Tak's style is like Catherine Zeta-Jones' ass going under a laser.
Not her, it's the lasers. These like cross lines, these trajectories of attack and defense are just really, I was just getting a very strong sense of it when he was like getting you to balance and use that lead knee as a basically a shield, cross blocking or outside blocking, like Krunu does that with you too.
Yeah.
It's like you create these like buttresses against attack that allow you on the block then to step down and attack yourself.
Yeah.
It's a range of attack that's really unusual and cool.
Yeah, what's cool about it is that you're like, I know what your options are, and I'm gonna narrow them. Like, I give you fewer and fewer and fewer options so you become more and more and more predictable.
That's interesting because he was saying in an explanation to you at one point, he was like, everyone have 2 arms and 2 legs, and that's it.
He's like, just take care of the arms and the legs.
Yeah, just stop the legs, stop the arms. And he put his hands out and just stopped your arms.
Yep.
And he's like teeping your thighs, and he's like, it's not hard.
Yeah.
But when you're like, what strike is going to come? You're like, oh, there's 30 strikes that can come.
Yeah.
Instead of, he's like, no, don't worry about the strikes. Just go to the 4 points.
Yeah.
It's like if someone's standing on one leg, they can't, that leg's done.
Totally.
That's what, like with Karhat, he's like, okay, you're on one leg. Now there's only 3 things you...
Yeah, your options are very
limited.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like Karhat in that regard, is that Karhat does the same thing spatially.
Yeah.
Is that he removes threats and allows and makes you become more and more predictable where you're going to stand. A little technical difficulty. Go.
An interesting thing about you were likening the thing about how when you first start learning clinch, you're just all tension and like all one muscle and all these things, is that the same not techniques, but the same like abstract concepts of you're tense, I'm not, work really well in clinch. And something that he was working with me on was this like kind of whipping. So you like push and the person kind of like loosens for a second, and then when you jerk them back, they have to tense. So you shove them and they relax, and then they have to snap into this tension, which allows you to have complete control.
I think it works either way. If you shove them and they tense up, you then can move them also.
Totally.
Like, basically you're moving them away, and then you used to do this with the head pop.
Yes.
Where you'd like put the hand behind the head. And no, we don't normally get into technical stuff in this because we're just talking, but you would like, instead of pulling the head down, you'd go like pop, two beats.
But the reason that works is that you're forcing someone to balance themselves, which is what we were talking about, is like if you're on balance off of everything, you can just keep going. Whereas if you're like, I'm off balance and now I need to correct, it's like veering the car, is if you can force someone to tense because you've off balanced them and they tense because they have to rebalance themselves. Yeah. There's nobody who like, when you're walking and you trip on something, your body tenses. There's no like, I'm falling, I'm gonna be super like ragdoll unless you're like drunk or something, I don't know. But it's this like manipulating the tension in your opponent as this overall strategy that really works for like any style.
This was really interesting to me, is that you've been exposed to a lot of clinch technique, and then you've spent your 5,000, 10,000 hours in the ring, like a tremendous amount of time clinching. It's rare for me to see someone teach you something in clinch that you'd not seen before.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a technique, it was a philosophy.
Yeah.
It was a perspective in clinch that can be used any number of ways.
Totally.
Like you can use it with this technique, but I really loved the kind of like, Karhat also has taught you some things in the clinch that we've never seen anywhere before, because he has a philosophy to how to fucking manipulate somebody. Tak has his own philosophy, which is this fucking weird, like, it's like a wave. He like hits you with the wave and then he pulls you back the other way, and you're just not prepared for that dimension of manipulation, because you're tensing, you're fighting the arms, you're trying to work for knees, you're very kind of like structurally rigid in a weird way. And so when he like, it's like a very tall building is great, but it cannot take an earthquake if it's not built right, right?
You can hit it once and it's not really gonna go, but if you're like shaking it.
Yeah, if you shake it or you give it the right vibration, and he was kind of creating these vibrations in you that you're gonna have to see, that you're gonna have to watch the session
and
to see it, but it's very cool.
From disadvantageous positions, which was cool.
Which was double outside, which I was like, please don't teach her too much of that, because they're trying to get you more inside.
No, but since
you
I find myself that way anyway, it's like, do this,
Totally.
It was cool.
Yeah. So if you're watching this on YouTube, go to the Muay Thai Library. If it's freshly put up on YouTube, it'll be up in a couple of weeks. You could be watching this, it might already be there. If you are listening to this as an audio podcast, following this will be the actual session. And thank you for being a patron.
And as a patron, you can subscribe on iTunes.
Right, you can, so they're probably already, if they're listening, you probably already know that, or not iTunes, other subscription services, Android based.
SoundCloud or whatever,
Not SoundCloud.
No, I don't know these things. Don't listen to me, I don't know.
Just say tech stuff.
Interwebs.
So it's good to get another session in the book. We are like probably about like 84 hours, 83 hours. We were set a goal of like 100 hours documented.
We're getting
and
there.
It's in sight, 100 hours.
Yeah.
This is going to be a very special library for decades. It's very,
already
very cool.
The most on the internet ever.
Oh, like not even, there's nothing even close to it.
Yeah.
So, cue music.
Cue music.
What's the music we use?
Well, for Muay Thai Bones, not Library Coffee Edition, we do Terminator. Dun, 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 dun.
And then we go into the salsa music.
Ba-na-na.